Hi everyone, I'm Lizzie and this is Lizzie Reads, and welcome to my April wrap-up, which was coincidentally the month of the owls for the Magical Readathon, which is hosted by G from BookRoast, which I will link her channel down below. I'll link all of my reading vlogs, and I'm just here really to give mini reviews of the books that I read and how they fitted into each prompt. I didn't read anything other than the owls last month. I read quite a lot compared to my normal reading schedule. However, there were some times when I did struggle to read and find the motivation, as it has been recently with everything coronavirus related. I initially intended to go for two career goals with the owls, and they were colouring sorcerer and Quidditch referee, and I'll read those ones first, the books that I read for those challenges, but I happened to exceed them, so I don't know if I'll stick to that for my newts, which happens in August. I have to see like what's going on, etc. at the time. However, the first book of the month that I read was Greta's Story, The Schoolgirl Who Went on Strike to Save the Planet by Valentina Camerini, illustrated by Moreno Giovannoni, and illustrated by Veronica Caratello. My pronunciation is awful, but it's just a short biography with lots of pictures in, describing how Greta Thunberg became famous and how her Friday strikes were picked up by the media and broadcast across the world. I found it very interesting. I read it for my potions, which was a shrinking solution, I think, under 150 pages, which this was, and I enjoyed it. It's definitely, I know it was aimed at kids, but you know, sometimes when kids books are very well suited to adults in their reading, but this however was just very basic, very repetitive, but I enjoyed it, and there was some information in there that I didn't know already about her personal life, so that was interesting for me. Next I read The Murder Game by Rachel Abbott, and I haven't got that to show you because I've lent it to my sister-in-law. I posted it through her letterbox, and this is for Defence Against the Dark Arts, and that's a book meant to be set at the sea or coast, and this is about a group of friends who were friends as they were boys, and then one of them gets married when they're older, and all their partners come a few days before the wedding to celebrate in this lovely Cornish kind of mansion. It's right set on the sea, and the sea plays a part in the story actually, so that really was fitting. And it's about how on the day of the wedding a member of the wedding party dies, and it's about how a year later the family member of that person that died invites everyone back and asks them to recreate the night in a murder mystery game because they are convinced that someone murdered their family member. And I found this really interesting. I found it gripping. Some of the dialogue was a bit, not the dialogue, some of it was a bit cringe. I found a few cringy moments in there, but on the whole I was really gripped in the story, and I wasn't really sure who'd done it, or it was a good mystery and not something that I'd read in a while, so I enjoyed that. That's not out at the moment, but I'll link the Goodreads page down below. I think it might be going by a different title, and the publish date might have changed because of everything that's going on, but I'll let you know in the description. And then next I read History of Magic, a book written about witches and wizards. I think this is the order, the next three I'm a bit sketchy on the order I read them in. And then I read Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, obviously about Harry Potter, and I was looking for something really cosy to read in this time, which I'm actually doing at the moment. I'm trying to read a whole load of cosy Harry Potter and Princess Diaries reads this weekend. That vlog isn't up yet because I might not complete it. Either way, I'll upload the video. But this is what I was reading for this prompt. I just wanted something cosy to get me through this particularly shitty time. And then next I read for my Transfiguration read, which is Shapeshifting. I read Infinity Sun by Adam Silvera, and I've got the proof copy here. But this is about two twin brothers, and they are in a world, urban fantasy world, in which there are celestials who have powers, and it's about how these boys get roped up into those powers and the superhero X-Men-esque relationship with the world that these people with powers have. I was shocked by how modern it was. I wasn't expecting it to be so urban fantasy. I thought it was more fantasy, but I was really shocked by how some of the slang was introduced into the story. I felt it was really a little bit try hard, and I really enjoyed the story, and the end was really gripping. The plot was just excellent. However, the only real downfall is that I think the world building wasn't done enough. Not everything was explained enough, and I think there was a lot I was confused about. But I would recommend it if you look into it and it really does sound like something you're going to enjoy. But I would just say that it could have been better if there was more world building. So it's not a detriment to the story, it was just there could have been so much more to it, and I think I would have definitely enjoyed it more. And then next, I think if we're going to go in order, I read Elif Shafak's 10 minutes 38 seconds in the strange world, and I read this for Arithmancy, which is a book outside your comfort zone, and this felt very out of my comfort zone. It felt very serious, it felt very literary, and it just felt like something I don't normally read, and I've been putting it off for a while, and little did I know how much I'd really enjoy it. It's about it's about a woman called Tequila Leela, and she is a dead prostitute in a bin in Istanbul, and it is about the 10 minutes 38 seconds after she dies, and how her stream of consciousness is slowly ebbing, but is recalling important moments from her life, and from that we get a picture of her life, and there's some afterwards as well about the characters that you meet on the way. And I definitely think the first half, the part that focused on her stream of consciousness, it's not quite stream of consciousness, but the flow and the memories that recalls her and how they link. So for example, I think she remembers a certain smell of a certain food, and it takes her back to a memory. And what was that all about? I really liked that half, but the second half I just felt very disconnected with. I didn't feel like I really cared that much about the second half. It was interesting, but I just don't think I cared as much as I should have done. But I really enjoyed it. I would recommend. There are some that would absolutely love the second half just as much as the first, I hope. Next we had Pubology, a book that starts with an M, for Mimblethania, I think that's how it's pronounced. And I picked The Mercies by Kira Millward Hargrave, and I'll be honest with you, this book, just everyone loves this book and everyone's so excited about it, but I just feel like I've gone straight on my head. It's gone already. I feel like I'm struggling to remember what it was. Well, I remember what it was about. It's about in 1617 on Christmas Eve, there's a Norwegian island, and there's this huge storm, and it wipes out all of the men, and it's about the women and how they survive afterwards, and how society tries to reprimand them for not thriving, but getting by as a all-women little colony afterwards. And I just didn't think it was what I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be a bit more fantastical. There is mention of witches in there, but to me it seems very obvious that they're not witches. It's just witch trials, and how witch trials were at the time, and I enjoyed it. But I just felt like it was quite slow and not my usual writing style, but I know some who would really love it, and I think maybe I just wasn't in the mood for it at the time. I didn't know that, but I wasn't. The next was maybe my favourite book of the month. I read Grown Ups by Marion Keyes for Charms, which is white cover, and it's about the Caseys, and they are an Irish family living in Ireland, and it's mainly about the three brothers in the family, and their partners and their children, and it's I would say the mainish character, one of their wives, Cara, she gets concussion in the prologue, and she starts spilling all of the secrets of the family, because they're a little bit well-to-do, fairly wealthy, middle class. I'd definitely say middle class, upper middle, like, but not like middle, not, more like just rich middle class, not like upper class. They've got money, but they're not like extremely posh, if you gather my meaning. And I found their story so compelling. It was easily the quickest read I've read in such a long time. For such a big book, I think started it on a Friday, and I read sort of 200 pages, and I read the remainder on the Sunday. I didn't read anything for like 2 days, and then I didn't read anything. I read like 400 pages on the Sunday, and then I just finished the little last like 50 odd pages. I just didn't have time to read on the Sunday, so I consumed a lot of pages very quickly. It's very easy to read, very compelling. I love the characters, I love the themes, I love the story, and I know a lot of people are raving about it at the moment, so I definitely recommend that one. So that completes all of the challenges for books that I wanted to read for the careers I had picked, and then the next ones were bonus, but I really wanted to get every single one, and I managed to get it mainly through rereads though, and I had to deviate slightly from my TBR. I read 3 Princess Diaries books. The first one was for Ancient Runes. I read Give Me 5, which is this one here, let me just show you, and that's for one that has a heart on the cover, Heart Rune. It's just where I was at in the Princess Diaries series, which is one of my favourites to reread because I find it absolutely hilarious. And then for Astronomy, which is read a book when it's dark outside, I found this particularly difficult actually, just because it's been getting so dark. So it's been getting dark so late, like 8:30, and I was finding that at these times I was in the middle of doing something, watching a film with my boyfriend, playing a board game, whatever, and then I was like, oh god, I've got to go to bed now, and then I was really struggling to actually read it, but in the end I did read it, but it was actually quite late. I read Sixational, which is the next in the series by Meg Abbott, and then I didn't read this one next in this order, but I will add that for my Muggle Studies read a contemporary book, I was going to read another contemporary book on my shelves, but I found myself fastly running out of time, so earlier this week I literally just ploughed through Seventh Heaven by Meg Abbott again, because I can literally read these in one sitting, no bother. They're so easy, especially because, as you can sort of see, the chapters are so short. It's diary format, so it's very easy to read. And then next I read my divination read random. So when I was doing my TBR, I got like sort of 4 or 5 books that I hadn't included in the rest of the TBR that I wanted to read, and then said to Tom, pick a book between 1 and 4, and he picked 4 or whatever it was, and he picked The Gilded Ones by Namina Fauna, and this is a fantasy novel about a society in which girls go through purity blood trials, and basically they are sort of cut in this huge ceremony, and if their blood is red then they are proven to be human, and if their blood runs gold they are demons. And this is about a young girl and her father, and it's approaching the day of her blood trial, and as you can probably tell, her blood runs gold, and it means that she is classed as a demon, and it's about what happens to her afterwards. And I have a lot of thoughts about this. First of all, the story was very interesting. I flew through the first 200 pages in one day, in like 2 hours of reading. It was so easy to read, so literally so easy. The font was quite big, there wasn't a lot of words on the page, but still I read it quite quickly. I was halfway through and so much had happened. Honestly, I felt like I was at the end of like a first book. And then I didn't read it for like 4 days, and I didn't even think about it. It wasn't on my mind. I wasn't really excited. I just sort of felt a bit flat. And I think that's because the characters weren't that developed, and neither was the plot and the story. I just feel like it was incident after incident after incident after incident after incident, and we were very much told how we were supposed to feel about each character, and like they were pigeonholed very easily. And as much as I was really interested in the story, I did feel that it was just too plot heavy. It was too fast paced, and not in the way that I want a fast paced book to be. It was more like just moving on and moving on, moving on, and that I felt was a real detriment to the novel. However, I was gripped. There was a point towards the end where I was so gripped, and I was like, oh my god, this is so interesting. And then it sort of fell flat towards the end. I don't think I'll pick up the sequel. I'll see what people say about it and things like that when it does come out, because this is a proof copy. It's not even out yet, so I'll probably sort of see what other people think, see what people think of the sequel, see how I think some people will like it. It's just I think it could have been so much more, and that was a bit disappointing for me. Then last but certainly not least, for my Care of Magical Creatures, I had to read a book with a beak on the cover. And here we have Buckbeak. And I read The Prisoner of Azkaban by J.K. Rowling. Yeah, another one of my faves. I read this very quickly on the last day of the Owls. Thought it was quite appropriate, and I enjoyed it very much. I just need to have a sit down and figure out how I feel about some of these books. Some of them I just don't know. Had a pretty good reading month. I read a lot. I read some really good books. I had a lot of rereads, but hopefully in the coming weeks, I'm getting all my rereads out of the way, so that in the coming weeks I can read lots of new and exciting things. So thank you so much for watching. If you participated in the Owls, let me know, and I'll speak to you soon. Goodbye.